Hey guys, welcome everybody. Hope you're doing great. It's been a long time since we last went live, and actually, lately I've been so busy, much more busy than usual, or much busier than usual. So it wasn't very easy for me to go live, but here we are, and this is going to be, again, a relatively short video. It's going to be a listening practice, so yeah. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about consistency. And the title for today is Consistency is What Makes You a Better English Speaker. So this is something that everybody in here is interested in, becoming a fluent speaker, becoming a confident speaker. And I think it comes down to consistency. It's the only thing that can make it or break it for you, right? So let's go. I'm going to be reading this for about the next 20 to 30 minutes. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it useful. And without further ado, let's start. If you're there, if you're listening to this and you like it, I hope you click on the like button. It's going to help us get to more people. So again, without further ado, let's start. So let me start with something that I think a lot of people need to hear when it comes to learning English. If you want to become a better English speaker, you don't necessarily need more books. You don't necessarily need a better teacher. And you don't need to know 1,000 new words every week. What you really need is consistency. And I don't mean consistency in the sense of studying English for 3 hours every single day. I'm talking about something much simpler. Imagine you spend just 10 or 15 minutes every day actually using English. You speak to yourself in English, you answer a few questions, you describe what you're doing, you watch something and repeat what you hear, and you have a conversation with someone. You record yourself speaking and listen back to it. It might not feel like much, but if you do that today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and then keep doing it for months, you're going to be a completely different speaker. And I think this is where many people misunderstand language learning. They think improvement comes from having one big study session. But speaking is not something you improve simply by studying it. You improve speaking by speaking. And the more regularly you use the language, the more natural it becomes. So you don't actually need a perfect routine. One of the biggest mistakes people make is creating a study plan that is impossible to maintain. They say, starting tomorrow, I'm going to study English for 2 hours every day. So they do it for 2 or 3 days, then life happens. They're tired, they have work, they have university, they go out, something unexpected happens, they miss one day, then another, and eventually they stop completely. The problem wasn't necessarily motivation. The problem was that the plan depended too much on motivation. Instead, make your goal small enough that you can actually maintain it. So 10 minutes, 15 minutes, even 5 minutes on a very busy day. Because the goal isn't to have the perfect English routine. The goal is to keep English present in your life. If you have an hour, use an hour. If you have 20 minutes, use 20 minutes. If you only have 10 minutes, then use 10 minutes. The important thing is you don't completely disconnect from English for weeks and then expect yourself to suddenly feel comfortable speaking again. Speaking is a skill, not just knowledge. There's another important point here. You can know a lot of English and still struggle to speak. You can understand grammar, you can recognize thousands of words, you can watch movies without subtitles, and you can get a very good score on an English test. And then someone asks you, what did you do last weekend? And suddenly, nothing. You know what you want to say, but you can't get the words out quickly. This happens because knowing English and using English are two different skills. It's similar to going to the gym. You can read about how to do a squat, you can understand the correct technique, you can watch 100 videos about squats, but that doesn't mean your body will automatically become good at squatting. You have to actually do it. Speaking works in a similar way. You need to train your brain to take the English you already know and turn it into actual sentences quickly and naturally. And that takes repetition. You don't always need someone to practice with. Another thing I want people to understand is that you don't need to wait for another person before you can practice speaking. Of course, having conversations with other people is extremely useful. But what if nobody's available? Are you supposed to do nothing? No, you can practice by yourself. Look around your room and describe what you see. Talk about your plans for tomorrow. Explain something you recently learned. Tell a story about something that happened to you. Pretend you're answering an interview question. Pick a random topic and speak about it for 2 minutes. For example, would I rather live in another country? And just start talking. You don't have to prepare a perfect answer. You don't have to write everything down first. The point is to make your brain produce English without depending on a script. And that's extremely valuable. Also, it is important to use the English that already exists around you. And this is where consistency becomes much easier. You don't have to create an English environment from nothing. English is already everywhere. Your phone can be in English, your social media feed can contain English content, you can watch YouTube videos in English, you can listen to podcasts while walking, you can read comments, you can follow people who speak English, and you can watch interviews. You can listen to songs and pay attention to the lyrics, and you can even use simple moments during your day. So you're making coffee, describe what you're doing in English. You're going somewhere, think about how you describe the place in English. You're waiting for someone, instead of scrolling randomly for 10 minutes. Okay, sorry, I lost my point. Yeah, okay, so now we're there. You're waiting for someone, instead of scrolling randomly for 10 minutes, spend 5 minutes listening to something in English. These small moments don't look important individually, but they add up. I want you also to take advantage of unexpected opportunities, and whenever you actually get the chance to speak English with another person, use it. Don't wait until your English is perfect. If someone speaks English to you, answer in English. If you meet a foreigner, try to have a conversation. If you're in a group where people are speaking English, participate. And if someone asks you a question in English, don't immediately switch to your native language because you're afraid of making a mistake. Use the opportunity, because every real conversation gives you something that studying alone can't completely reproduce. So you have to listen, you have to understand, you have to think, you have to choose your words, you have to respond, and sometimes you have to do all of that in just a few seconds. And that's exactly the kind of pressure that makes you feel better or makes you better. I want you also to stop waiting to feel confident. There's also a connection between consistency and confidence. A lot of people say, I'll start speaking when I become more confident. But confidence usually doesn't come before practice, it comes from practice. The first time you speak English for 5 minutes, you might feel uncomfortable. The 10th time, it becomes easier. The 50th time, you're probably much more relaxed. Eventually, you stop thinking about every single word, and that's when something important happens. You start focusing less on, is my grammar correct? Did I pronounce that word correctly? Am I making a mistake? And you start focusing more on, what am I actually trying to say? And that's a huge change. I want to also remind you that mistakes are part of the process. And yes, you're going to make mistakes. You might use the wrong tense, you might pronounce something incorrectly, you might forget a word, and you might say a sentence in a strange way. And that's normal. Actually, if you're consistently speaking and never making mistakes, there's a good chance you're not challenging yourself enough. The goal isn't to speak perfect English from day one. The goal is to notice your problems and gradually reduce them. If you keep making the same mistake, learn the correct version, then use it again and again. Eventually, the correct form becomes more natural, and that's how improvement happens. But consistency doesn't mean doing the exact same thing. This is another point. Being consistent doesn't mean doing the same 15-minute activity every single day. You can change what you do. So for example, Monday, speak for 10 minutes. Tuesday, watch an English video and repeat some sentences. Wednesday, have a conversation. Thursday, read an article and explain it in your own words. Friday, record yourself answering interview questions. Saturday, watch a movie scene and copy the pronunciation. Sunday, simply talk to yourself while doing your normal activities. You're still practicing English, you're just training different parts of the skill. Listening, speaking, pronunciation, vocabulary, fluency, understanding, and that's much more useful than spending every day doing the exact same exercise. You can make 15 minutes enough. Let's say you only have 15 minutes. Here's one simple example. Spend 5 minutes listening to something. Don't just listen passively. Pay attention to how people actually speak. Then spend 5 minutes speaking. Talk about the same topic in your own words. Then spend the last 5 minutes reviewing. Maybe you noticed that you didn't know three words. Look them up. Maybe you made a grammar mistake. Correct it. Maybe you struggled to explain one idea. Try explaining it again. That's only 15 minutes. But you're doing three important things: input, output, and correction. And if you do that consistently, you're going to see progress. So don't underestimate small improvements. One of the frustrating things about learning a language is that progress isn't always obvious. You might practice for a week and think, I'm not improving. Then suddenly, 3 months later, you have a conversation and realize, wait, I didn't struggle as much this time. That is progress. Maybe you're answering faster, maybe you're using fewer pauses, maybe you're understanding people more easily, and maybe you're not translating every sentence in your head. Maybe you're more comfortable making mistakes, and these changes can happen slowly. This is why people sometimes don't notice them, but slow progress is still progress. One last thing is, I want you to never compare your practice to someone else's. And finally, don't make the mistake of comparing your journey with someone else's. Someone might improve very quickly, someone else might need much longer, and someone might have 2 hours every day to practice. Someone else might only have 15 minutes. Someone might already be surrounded by English speakers, and someone else might live in an environment where they almost never hear English. The important question isn't, why am I not as good as this person? The better question is, am I better than I was 3 months ago? That is the comparison that actually matters. So the real secret is making English part of your life. So if I had to give you one simple piece of advice about improving your English speaking skills, it would be this. Stop treating English as something you study and start treating it as something you use. Use it when you have the opportunity. Use it when you're alone. Use it for 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Use it when you're motivated, and especially use it when you're not motivated. Because motivation comes and goes, but your routine is what keeps you moving. So you don't need to become obsessed with English. You don't need to spend your entire day studying. You don't need to memorize 50 new words every morning. You need to keep showing up. A few minutes today, a few minutes tomorrow, and another conversation next week. Another video, another mistake, another correction, another attempt. And after enough of those small attempts, something changes. The English that once felt difficult starts becoming familiar. The sentences that once required a lot of thought start coming naturally. And the conversations that once made you nervous become normal. That's what consistency does. You don't become a better speaker because you practiced once for 5 hours. You become a better speaker because you practiced again and again until speaking became part of what you naturally do. So don't ask yourself, how can I learn English as quickly as possible? Instead, ask yourself, how can I make sure I still practice English 6 months from now? Because if you can answer that question, you are already on the right path. Okay, so that was it for the reading out loud part for today. By the way, it might not be as easy as you think it is to read aloud, especially on a live stream. And again, we were just talking about the topic of consistency, and I want to let you know that the only reason I was able to read this good is I read so many things, right? I read aloud every single day. I do it with my clients. I do it to focus more maybe on something that I'm reading, to listen to myself pronouncing and reading and so on. So it is also a skill that I've been working on for the past, I don't know, like at least 6 years maybe. And that is how I was able to read. And by the way, reading aloud is a very important skill. Think of when you're having a presentation or something like this, when you're maybe discussing an idea. Even though you're reading, it is important that you read with good intonation skills. It is important that you pause sometimes to let other people understand you and to sound clear. So, yeah, again, that was it for today. And by the way, if you missed a part of this, you can always watch it again on our YouTube channel. So you could find the link in the bio. You would find also some of our meetings with some of the co-guests who joined us before. It's been a long time since we last went live, but today, hopefully, I'm going to try my best to go live at 10 p.m. So I'm not sure if you'd be there or not, but I hope you'd be able to make it. So let us know. We'll be waiting for you at, I think, 11 p.m. Or 12 p.m. today. So today, we're going to go live, hopefully. I hope we can make it, and I hope you could also make it. We'll be waiting for you, and see you very soon.